So I thought we should just continue from last time a little bit today, just to conclude our discussions, because we left it at no substance, but I don't want to leave it there. That's half. That's not a very good ending for a Vedanta class to say there's no substance. So first of all, do you guys remember what we talked about, and do you have any questions? Just to remind you, we said that any object can be thought of as having a form and a substance. You can't have a form without substance. Form changes all the time, substance doesn't change. And then we started looking at the substance. We took an example of the gold bangle, and then we said, okay, in that gold seems to be the substance. So we started digging in a little bit, and we realized that gold also is not a substance, because gold is also a form consisting of other substances, which are electrons and protons and neutrons. And then we looked at the proton and said, okay, that also doesn't seem like a substance, because that also is consisting of quarks. So maybe quark is the substance and proton is just a form of a way in which quarks get together. And then we realized that really, if we may not know all the answers, but you keep thinking like this is a never-ending chain. Anything that you can conceive or conceptualize which as a form, can always be composed of other forms. So where is the substance really? And then we said, okay, maybe we can look within ourselves. Maybe we can find the substance within ourselves. And then we said our body is not a substance, it's a form. We know that our thoughts and mind is not really substance, it's also a form, because the different thoughts are coming and going, right? And you can distinguish between one thought and the other. And then we said maybe the witness, which is experiencing these thoughts, who's actually the experiencer, maybe that's the substance. But really, that's not the substance also, because the one who's experiencing is not the thought. So we are now talking about two different things, one experiencing the other. And a substance is one. You can't have two different substances experiencing each other. And so that's where we left it last time. Atul was leaning towards the idea that maybe there is no substance. All there is forms within forms. And then we said we will take it up next time and see what else Vedanta has to tell us about this. So far, is there any question on what I just summarized?
Yeah, I have a question about the very last thing that you said, which is
Right.
you said that why can witness awareness not be a substance? And you said it's because it is witness to thoughts.
Yeah.
And
So we will, okay, let's that's what we will dig in now. You'll see when I said that you can't have you can't have two different substances. You can't have a witness as a substance and then the thought as another substance. Unless you say that the witness is also the substance of the thought, then it's the same substance. But otherwise, what you're saying is you have a subject and an object. You have an experiencer, the witness, and then you have thoughts which are arising. And we were talking about what is the substance of those thoughts. So we are saying the substance is the witness. That means the witness is the substance of everything, including the thought. So that's a different way of
okay.
That's a different thing. But so anyway, I think as I go through, it'll become a little bit more clear. So what I wanted to talk about today was what does Vedanta say about the substance? Or can there be, first thing is, you can't really have a form without a substance. That was kind of the first sort of clue. There has to be a substance, because otherwise, can you imagine any form which doesn't have a substance? It's unimaginable. This form is always made out of substance. So that is just one clue.
No, but wait a minute.
Yeah.
But I think in the first 5 minutes, you kind of said that what we think of as substance, if we dig deeper, even that turns out to be a form. So in
Right,
other words,
right.
when you say that form cannot be a form requires substance,
Yes.
so far we haven't crossed that bridge, because
So
from
you
gold bangle to gold, that was still a form to form.
right, but you can't have a bangle without a substance. Can you
No,
conceive
but
of a bangle without a substance?
that's what I thought. But then I thought you proved to us that what we thought of as substance is also a form.
Yes, 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 absolutely. So what I'm saying is it's a form within a form. But at the end of
Yeah,
it, somewhere down the line, there has to be a substance. Otherwise,
maybe, because no, I mean that's what I thought. That's what I
yes.
started out with 10 days ago, but or 20 days ago. But then I think you have taken me to a point where I'm sort of saying
No, so
form could be
where I
also
took
form.
you was that down the line there has to be a substance, but we can't find it. In other words,
Yeah,
using our eyes and ears and our perception, we
yeah,
cannot locate that substance.
okay.
It doesn't mean that there is no substance. Just because
Uh,
we don't have the means to identify it. Because whatever we identify with our eyes and ears has to be a form. Eyes, ears, and it has to be a form. It can't be a substance. That's where we said. That's what I was saying. So you can say there are two ways to look at it now. You can look at it the way the Charvakas look at it, which is another philosophy. There's a kuch nahi hai substance. If I can't see it, if I can't feel it, if I can't touch it, if I can't experience it, I can't experience it, me, it doesn't exist. So if you're going to take, if you want to, if that's the way you want to think about it, right? Then yes, there is no substance. So the whole, all of these philosophies, they are grounded on what's called means of knowledge. So philosophy is about knowledge. And they say to understand that knowledge, what's the means of knowledge? There are philosophies which recognize only perception and logic as a means of knowledge. Anything that I can experience, only that is true. If I can't experience it, it doesn't exist. That is a materialistic philosophy, typically. It's called materialism. I feel it, I touch it. Things that I can't explain, I still don't understand, but nothing basically exists that I can't see. But a spiritual philosophy, as opposed to, and I'm just using technical terms, no underlying hidden meanings, as opposed to a materialistic philosophy, says that there are means of knowledge other than just our perception. That things exist which we we cannot experience. This is the, and if, and this is an important sort of bridge to cross. Because if you're really thinking about Vedanta and you want to go further into Vedanta, you will have to, kind of, in your own mind, cross this bridge. And Vedanta will tell you why. Like I told you why, we can see, for example, that using perception alone, we cannot find a substance. So either we say that there is no substance, or we look for substance through another means. Are you following me? Sanjay and Rajiv?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
am.
yeah.
I mean, this is nothing new because remember when we talked about consciousness, Dheeraj, earlier, right? Or awareness. I think we correlated it to the fact that you can't experience it, right,
Yes,
directly.
exactly.
That you have to really Vedanta says that it's there and you have to go with that belief that it's there. We talked about space, time, dimensions, and how humans are
Yeah.
limited to all that, right? So to me, this is just a reinforcement, actually.
Yes, it is a reinforcement. The only thing I would maybe tweak what you said is Vedanta tells you it's there. You don't have to go with the belief.
Yeah,
You have to examine the belief.
belief. Yeah,
Okay. And that's what I propose to do right now. This
yeah.
is what today's session is, because Vedanta is saying there's a substance. And what I want to show you is a way to examine it.
Okay.
Okay.
Which is actually great because that's the biggest puzzle left for me. That's where the struggle is at times is, trying to conceptualize what awareness could be. And then I say, why am I even thinking about that? Because Vedanta said so, that, you're never going to be able to experience it directly, right?
Yeah, see, because for you, and this is what happens when we start. For you, if you can't experience it, you
Yeah.
think you can't know it.
No.
Yes, that's how we've been brought up. All of us have been brought up like that. We feel that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. That's what we've been taught. So I can't experience it. Why should I trust you? But that is a fallacious thinking. It's good enough for our day-to-day life. But if you really want to dig into reality, that thinking becomes a constraint for you. It'll be a barrier. You have to overcome that because this is not based on any logic that if I can't experience it, it's based on just my comfort level. It's not based on any anything more than that. It's not based on data.
Mhm.
In fact, actually, a lot of things we experience are turned out to be false. That's the other way around. So, sorry, you're going to say something?
Well, I was just going to say that whenever I'm stuck with this, here, I actually go back and read one of the papers on the Mandukya Upanishad, right? This different states and how it correlates to, the Turiya state, right? Which is there's something there, but you just can't feel it, right? I mean, um,
So, right now you're still sort of in a transition sort of a phase.
mhm,
So you get stuck from time to time.
mhm,
And you got to go back and think because your orientation is still the orientation of there's an object out there, I have to feel it, I have to feel it. Over time, this is what Shravanam Mananam Nidhyasana does. Over time, you'll stop thinking like that. Your approach to thinking will change to a more Vedantic approach, which I'll tell you now how
okay. Yeah,
and
great.
that becomes natural to you, and you will stop having doubts. It'll just become a natural way of thinking for you.
Yeah.
So what basically so there are many ways in which Vedanta says why Brahman exists. One it says is that do you exist? I'm going to talk about two. So one it says is do you exist? Because if you exist, that means you can't just exist as a form. There is some substance to you.
Mhm.
So if you exist, whatever that you is, we don't know what that you is. That you cannot be seen by the eyes. It cannot be felt by my mind because it's beyond if my mind exists in that you. If that you exists, then that substance exists because at least that's the substance. And it asks you to explore this. So it says, for example, if you were like everything that you know, everything else that you know through experience. By experience, I mean a collective term which means perception, eyes, ears, etc., etc. Cognition, which is also an experience. Imagination, conception, all these are part of experience. So either you are experiencing an object which is outside in the world, which can be perceived through your senses using some instruments. You can use a telescope, but at the end of the day, telescope feeds into your eyes. Or it's an internal object which is in your mind, which is composed of thoughts or ideas. Like Einstein conceived of things as objects only in his mind. For him, there was no, there was no elevator which actually was falling down in a free fall. He just assumed it when he was doing his thought experiments, right? There's no cat in Schrodinger's experiment. I mean, not that Schrodinger said that, but whatever. What I'm going to say is that you can do all that in your mind too. So you can have a mental object too. You can imagine, you can dream. All these are objects which are in your mind, but they're still objects. You are thinking about or experiencing or feeling those objects as distinct from you. That's an experience. When there are two things involved, one is the experiencer and the other is the experienced. Whether it is external or internal, you have an experience. Everything we know, everything is known through experience. So far. That is why experience is so important to us. Now we are saying there is something called me, which you know, even though you can't experience it. If I ask you what is you will struggle. You will say, I am this body, I am this mind, ye kar karke. I'll keep asking you a question. You'll say, oh, I don't know what I am. So then you say, you don't know what you are, you can't find you, that means you don't exist. To Atul's question. If I have to logically answer, Atul would say, yes, I don't know who I am because I can't see myself. Either I'm this body that I can see or my thoughts that I can feel. But if you tell me that I'm neither the body nor the thoughts, and I can't know who I am, I can't see who I am, then that means I don't exist. There is no substance to me. I'm only some sort of form. That will be the conclusion you will reach if you were to follow the logic that if I can't experience, I don't exist. If something can't be experienced, it doesn't exist. Atul, do you agree?
I know. Okay. I mean, I'm not
This
100%
is like,
sure where
is
we
this
are
the
going.
Indian shake of the head or the American?
Yeah. No, but I mean, that's what I'm saying, that I'm not sure. I mean, I can go along with it.
Okay, go along with it. So one thing we do know is we instinctively know we exist. We don't have to think about it. Do I exist? We just know we exist. We don't, even if you close your eyes, close your ears, you are supposed to, let's say you go to sleep, where all your faculties are gone. You're not experiencing there's no experience in deep sleep. No experience. But you never doubt that you existed during that deep sleep. You wouldn't know during sleeping because your mind is also not there, so there's nobody to have that internal dialogue with. Am I existing or not? But when you wake up and you go back to think about your sleep or whatever, you don't doubt that you existed. You don't doubt that, oh, for a few hours, I did not exist. Let's say even if you had nobody else around you and you went to sleep. So nobody could tell you that, you were there. I saw you lying down when you were sleeping. Nobody could tell you. Even then you won't have a doubt. Anyway, so that's one. I also didn't find it like this is not by itself. It takes time to understand this. But this is one approach, and very often taken by Vedanta. And if you really think about it, you'll see the power of this. And that this sort of knowledge that I exist, and knowing this without the use of any other faculty of knowledge, is called aparoksha anubhuti. It's called aparoksha gyan, just so you know, technically speaking. Aparoksha means it's neither pratyaksha, that means it's not a perception, nor is it paroksha, nor is it something that has been told to you. So it's aparoksha. Okay, just direct knowledge, just absolutely direct knowledge without any medium involved. No, otherwise all knowledge involves some media. Our eyes is a medium which tells us, or you look at it through some instrument, that's a medium. Our ears are mediums. All other objects you require mediums. The mind is a medium. Not this. This is without medium direct knowledge. So that's one. Okay. So you please guys think about it whenever you get a chance. See whether this is true, whether this makes sense to you. The second one, which is where Kane Upanishad actually told us, and some others too, is a very interesting one. It's an analysis of experience. So let's say that you exist or not, chodo pare. Substance exists or not, forget it. Do you experience? Do you see things around you? Is there an experience which is happening? Do you hear things? Do you think? Experience is happening. I don't think there's any doubt there. It's not a trick question, right? You cannot deny experience. Actually, Vedanta is based on an analysis of experience. That's what Vedanta is all about. Honestly, I mean, that's what it is. So my question is, you agree that there is experience? You agree that you've been experiencing things you can experience? So my
Yeah.
question to you is, right? You agree, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So then my question is, what does it take to have an experience? What are the conditions that must be satisfied for any experience, good, bad, ugly, indifferent? What does it take?
Change,
Hmm.
some level of change.
There has to be a vritti and there has to be an experiencer.
There has to be an experiencer and there has to be a vritti. Vritti means an object. You could say a
No,
the
anything,
idea of
any
an
change.
object. Yeah. So there has to be an experiencer, there has to be an experienced, whose vritti the experiencer seen. And when you say vritti, that means change, obviously, because you can't have a vritti without change. So you need a change.
Yeah.
What else do you need for experience? Let's say there's a vritti. Let's say there's an object and there's an why does experience happen? How does experience happen?
Through
Like
your
there's so many things
senses
around me.
and
Hmm?
through
What?
your sense organs, and you experience through your sense organs and the mind.
But I'm saying, let's say through the sense organs, the information has come to your mind.
Mm.
Why would you experience? I could have the same information coming to a computer's chip. The computer's chip is not going to experience, is it? What is experience? What is required for experience?
That you have to have some
Consciousness.
sort of first
Right.
person experience. You have to be conscious.
Right. You have to be conscious. But consciousness, it depends on what that consciousness is, because consciousness is, if it's Brahman, it's there everywhere. Right? I mean, if you really think about it, so yes, you require consciousness, you require an object, you require the subject of experience, you require change, that means you require a vritti, you need a contact between two things. You need the object to come in contact one way or the other with the subject. So how does contact happen if you want to see something? If I'm seeing a tree, it happens indirectly. There's a light ray which hits the tree. The light ray gets modified by the form of the tree. The light ray comes and hits my retina, and the light ray contacts my retina. So there's a chain of contacts happening. There is you can trace that contact all the way through, from my mind to my retina to the light ray, from the light ray hitting that, coming from that object, and the light ray striking that object. You can trace that, right? Even if you see a galaxy far, far away, there's an actual contact that happened between your mind and your eyes and that galaxy through that light ray, which took many, many years to reach you. But only after that light ray reached you were you able to experience the galaxy. There can be no experience without contact. You can have a subject and an object existing. If there is no contact between them, there can't be an experience one to the other.
But that can't be enough, because a robot will also have, like, if you have a
Yeah. So we are just going one by one. So I'm just trying to say first that there is contact is needed, right? Now, what do you need for contact? And I'll tell you this because I was talking to Atul the other day and I was giving him this example. By the way, that this is just an example. Sorry, I'm bringing in science again. But you can think of others too, I'm sure. You know that when nuclear reactions, atomic reactions take place, like in the sun, there's a constant nuclear reaction going on, right? There's an elementary particle being produced in all these reactions. It's called a neutrino. So most of the mass of the sun, which is being lost, is lost through neutrinos. And they are so prolific, these neutrinos, that right now through my body, there are trillions of neutrinos passing through every hour. Trillions. I'm not saying millions or billions, trillions. And they pass through all the time. They pass through from the top. If the sun is behind me at night, they pass through the earth and pass through me. They go through the whole of the earth, underground, come and pass through me. I never feel them. Now, light does the same thing. Light is also coming from the sun. The light photons, when they come and hit me, I feel them. But when the neutrinos come and hit me along with the light, I don't feel them. In fact, actually, neutrinos are far, far more abundant than light, than photons. But still, I do not feel those neutrinos. So why is there no contact between me and the neutrinos, although they just pass through me, whereas there is absolute contact between me and the light molecules? And the light molecules hit me and bounce off my body or do whatever, they get affected by me. For contact to happen, interaction has to happen, right? Are you with me so far?
Mhm.
Okay, I promise you this is going to end very soon. It's not going to be more technical. Okay. So for contact to happen, interaction has to happen. And what has to happen for interaction to happen? Why is it that a neutrino will not interact with me, but a photon will interact with me?
Has to exist sort of at the same order of
They're all in the
frequency
same
or
order of
reality
reality.
or something.
Yeah. For a neutrino is also in the same order of reality. It is not in a
No, not order of reality, but the means of knowledge has to have the appropriate receptor for that to be able to
so that's
gauge
what I'm saying.
that.
What constitutes the appropriate receptor? That this is why is it that my body, it's not a question of receptors. That's not where I'm going. Where I'm going is if you think about it, let's say I touch Rajiv, you put your hand on my hand. There is contact.
Mhm.
I can feel it. There is interaction. Why is there interaction? What is actually interacting? What is interacting is the electromagnetic field in my hand is interacting with the electromagnetic field in your hand. My electrons are interacting with your electrons. There is no space in my electrons for them to, my atoms cannot accept another electron coming from your hand. This is called Pauli's exclusion principle. If you introduce new electrons through your hand by touching mine, there is no space. They will be repelled. That's why there's a resistance in my hand. Otherwise, my hand is 99% space. You could go right through my hand. It just looks like solid. 99% is just empty space. It's because there are because there is the sameness of a substance between your hand and mine. Your electrons are no different from my electrons. They are the same electrons. That is why I can feel your electrons. That is why I can feel your hand. You need a commonality of core substance for there to be interaction, for there to be contact. If your hand was made of neutrinos and my hand is made of electrons, your hand will pass right through my hand. I wouldn't even know your hand exists. And I would say I don't even have the means of knowledge to know a neutrino, because my means of knowledge only tackle this. But why do I say it? Because the basic essence, the substance of your hand is different from mine. So for interaction to happen, the substance has to be the same. So for me to see you, the core substance at the bottom of it, which we haven't yet identified, which Atul will say doesn't exist, has to be the same between you and me. And you can draw this chain all the way back from eyes to the mind. That means the self that sees, ultimately the self that's experiencing, its substance also has to be the same as the object that is being experienced. That's why we say that an object is a vritti in the self. That means it's just a modulation of the self itself.
But the core substance is the same between the neutrino and your mind and your eyes too.
Yeah. Say that
The
again.
core substance is the same between the neutrino and your eyes. Why can't you see a neutrino?
We see, no, we do see it. Otherwise, I would not have known. This is an example. We do see a neutrino, but we see one in like 100 trillions of them. And that also, you
No,
have to
but I'm
what
saying
I'm trying
like,
to say is, this neutrino example I gave you to show you why, because the between the neutrino and the electron, the core substance is not actually, it's not the same. That is why the neutrino passes through, because the neutrino does not interact with us. It interacts very weakly. But this is just an example. The point I'm trying to make is that sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I understand that it's just an example, because I thought that you were, maybe I took it too far.
Yeah. I mean, neutrino is not Brahman, or neutrino is not
No, I am
Okay.
just saying that for your point is that in order to have any experience, the underlying substance of everything is Brahman, and that's why it's possible to have any experience at all. I think that's where you're going, right? So I'm
Yes,
saying,
the
yeah.
underlying substance has to be the same. It doesn't. Brahman has a very. I've not reached the Brahman part yet. We just call it Brahman, but I don't want to step there, but go there, because then we miss out a lot of things in between. So the
Okay,
underlying
just go ahead.
substance,
Yeah.
okay, the underlying substance is Brahman. That is a very high. That's true, but it has to be the same. That's what I'm saying. That's what Vedanta also says. So when the underlying substance has to be the same, then, as Kiki said, why would a computer not see? All these things can be met in a computer's case also, and it can be met in our case also, or everything. Like what is it what else is needed other than contact for experience? So first thing, you definitely need a subject and an object. You need the subject and the object to have the same substance. You need the subject and the object to have contact. That means to have interaction. For that, you need the subject and the object to have the same substance. What would the substance be? What can this substance be? Because even beyond this, there's something more. We are conscious. There's a consciousness. There's a what's called chetana that is happening in us. So I mean, it's very hard to logically derive these things, but you can use logic to explain these things. So what we know about the substance. So this is what we know about the substance. It enables experience. We know that. We also know that the substance cannot have a name and form. We talked about it earlier. It can't be in space and time. It can't be an object, either an external object or internal object. So there are all these things we can derive and say, okay, this is what the substance. If it exists, it has to be that. It does exist, because if there was no substance, there'd be no interaction. There'd be no experience. I am experiencing you. So there is a common substance. Otherwise, I would not experience you. But that substance doesn't have a form. That substance is not an object. Then what is it? Right? So what Vedanta is doing, it is bringing you closer and closer through different ways, trying to show you, point it out to you. So say, what can it be? And what it's saying is, and what's the other quality that has to be there for experience? That other quality, as you were earlier saying, is consciousness, right? You brought that out too. So that consciousness also has to exist. Consciousness cannot exist in the form. It has to exist in the substance. So what Vedanta tells us, or posits, or and the hypothesis of Vedanta, you could say, is that there is something which is formless, whose nature is consciousness, which is the substance. That means that thing exists. And it also happens to be your substance. As we said, do I exist? Beyond this, Vedanta is silent. Because there's no way to say anything more about it. All we can say is, it is aware, changeless, formless, blah, blah, blah. It's my essence, and its nature is consciousness. That's why they say the Swarupa Lakshana of Vedanta, of Brahman, they call it Brahman. We're given it a name, but that's not important. The important thing is that the Swarupa Lakshana of it, that means its nature is Sat Chit Ananda. So Sat means it's a substance that exists. Chit means it's consciousness itself. And Ananta means it doesn't exist as an object. Ananta means eternal. Eternal means outside of time. That means it doesn't exist as an object. Object, form, space, and time go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. So it's neither a form, nor in space, nor in time. That means it's Ananta. So that's why we call it Sat Chit Ananta, Satchit Ananda. That means the substance, it exists. It's consciousness itself, and it's eternal. That means it's not in space and time. And Vedanta's job from here on is to tell you, we've given you some thoughts. Think about it more and more. Try to see what it's trying to say. Try to understand it more and more and more. Try to apply it and see whether it makes sense to you. Because let's say if it wasn't Chit, let's say if it wasn't consciousness, then how would we be conscious? Where would the experience come from? There are some philosophies which say that it comes from some interaction of matter. Somehow when matter interacts with each other, it becomes conscious. That means consciousness is not part of the substance. Consciousness is part of the matter. Matter is the substance. Consciousness is a derived property. It's not, consciousness can go away if matter is rearranged in a different way. Consciousness will go away. Right? That's one view of philosophy, and I can see several logical issues with it, which we don't want to go into right now. But you have to, if you're interested, you can think about this for yourself. The other way of looking at it is to say, no, it's not that consciousness is a derived property. Consciousness is the nature of the substance. The substance is nothing but consciousness. Literally, that's what Vedanta is saying, that this substance is nothing but consciousness. That's why Vedanta is, like it says, that matter emerges as an appearance in consciousness. Matter comes from consciousness, not the other way around. Not consciousness coming from matter. Okay, Atul, where are you? Did you follow? You're my yardstick right now because you were having.
No, yeah, I'm a bad yardstick because I can very easily, make cricket look like gully danda.
No, that's okay. I mean,
So,
we don't want to force ourselves to like cricket. We have to understand cricket first.
so see where I'm stuck, and I use the word stuck very fondly. In other words, I'm comfortable being stuck.
Yeah.
Is that everything is a form. Dig deeper, there's another form. Dig deeper, there's yet another form. So the parallel that I have found very acceptable to me is that it's all a journey. There is no destination. And I'm very comfortable with that. In fact, I'm super happy with that.
Okay.
It reinforces my philosophy on the journey versus destination.
You're saying
That even when you look
what
at,
you're saying is we have not come with the answer yet, but it's a journey. Answer is not important. We have to keep trying.
no, not only that. No, in fact, if you, in fact, you have to stop trying. I will go even
Okay,
as far
stop
as
trying.
that because
Okay, give up.
because the journey, since it's all the journey, that means if you keep, and I'm not saying don't dig deeper into a substance, into a form, but don't be saying that I'm digging deeper to find the substance, because what you're likely to find is another form.
Right.
And I'm perfectly fine with that. So
Yeah.
in other words, like in a journey, when you climb a mountain and you see another mountain to climb, that's what you
Yeah,
expect.
fine,
That's what
fine.
you should
Yeah.
expect, not
Okay.
a pot of gold, you know?
Yeah.
So in that sense, I'm super happy. I'm super comfortable. So I'm a wrong yardstick because
What you're describing is a state of mind, your state of mind, how you feel comfortable, what you think about this, right? Maybe the question is not about the state of mind, but about the logic or the robustness of the argument. Is it, you can be very happy, say, I can't find a form, you can stop there, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But can you agree that if you try to think about it, that there can be no experience without a common substance?
No, I mean, I haven't reached that point. I mean, no. So inherently, I'm not there.
Yeah, you're not there, not
On that
because
point.
not because it's wrong or right. It's because you haven't thought about it in depth enough.
No, because I mean, I cannot see the logic. In other words, if you sort of say the only way we can experience, the fact that we can experience anything, therefore, all of it should be one substance. I mean, I haven't made
Okay,
that
so
connection.
tell me why.
That,
So tell me where in the logic we said that for experience, forget about all of it being one substance. Let's say that the experienced and the experiencer have to be one substance. Let's just stay there.
no, why? No. In
Okay.
fact, on the contrary, it's easier for me to experience this than a part of my body that's inside me. I mean,
Right,
I know
right.
I have pancreas, but I have no idea. I mean, if you say I'm going to focus on the pancreas,
No.
I still cannot experience the pancreas.
No, so you have to have a difference in form to experience. There's no question about it. But I'm talking about the substance. Why is it that you even experience that little box? How did you see that little airport thing that you have? We went through the logic, we went through the argument of how the process of experience occurs. When you touch it, you can hold it, right? You touch it, you've got it in your hand, the airport case. You can touch it, you can feel it. Why is that happening?
Yeah.
If there was nothing in common between that airport case and your fingers, could you have felt it?
Possibly. I mean, I don't see.
Okay, doesn't matter.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is that the fact that I can feel it, why should that lead me to conclude that there is something in common with this?
Because otherwise you wouldn't have felt it. If there was nothing in common, you couldn't have felt it.
But why is that?
Because
why is that?
Because
Okay,
it has to
is the
interact.
reverse also true? Is the reverse also true? In other words, if I don't feel it, then I should not have anything in common?
No. If you don't feel it, there could be many reasons why you don't feel it. You couldn't feel it because the feeling is too subtle for you. In other words,
Yeah,
your mind,
I can believe.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Like I don't feel
one.
infrared, for instance. I don't feel ultraviolet, for instance.
Exactly. But there's a lot in common. You don't feel it because you're, whatever.
My tools are not capable of feeling those.
Exactly.
Hmm.
But that's not the point, right? The point is, if you can feel something, it has to have something in common. And you have to, if you really, I mean, you could very well be not interested. You could be very happy. See, you have a philosophy, which is journey is all that matters. You can pick and choose and cherry pick from whatever I'm telling you and say, oh, this meets my philosophy. I'm happy with this. More power to you. Good for you, right? But then you're not then you're like, that just as long as you know that that's what you're doing, that's fine.
Yeah. Mm.
But otherwise, if you have to understand what Vedanta is saying, you got to get off your personal philosophy a little bit.
But since you asked me, wait, that's the connection I'm not able to see. Why should this? I mean, I'm willing to. Also, I'm not. Again, you cannot ask me to prove the opposite because I'm not having the opposite. But if you sort of say that I said A and I said B, therefore C must be true.
No, I'm only saying, I'm saying if you can experience an object, there has to be something in common between the experiencer and the experienced object for that experience to occur. Anyway, that's the
okay. I mean, to the extent that if I were to say it in my words, the only way what I call experience means there is some interaction happening between A and B.
Exactly.
And that interaction is the bridge. So okay,
yes.
that there is something.
And that interaction is
okay,
the bridge. And for the interaction means what? Interaction is just another name for experience. Okay. So interaction, for the interaction to happen, there has to be commonality. Otherwise, the interaction cannot happen. There is no medium for the interaction to happen.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'm willing to accept that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all we were saying. And if you extend that logic, you can say that the interaction is happening with the world. Whatever it is in the world that you're seeing, whatever it is in the world that you're interacting with, perceiving, experiencing, there has to be a commonality with you. No, you don't have to. This is just, you take your time, and think about it if you want to.
No. Okay. Okay. All right. So there's commonality. All right.
But that's how you.
But we are still. But how are we closer to substance?
That commonality is the substance. The forms are different. The forms there are two different forms. And that has to be also part of experience, because two different forms means two different things. So their forms are different. They have to be different. For experience, there has to be a difference in forms, commonality in substance. That's the motto. Difference in form, commonality in substance is what causes experience. If there was no difference in form, that means the same form, one form, no experience. If there was two different substances, we could be living in two different universes without any experience. So who knows?
Okay, I can understand the difference in form.
Bhoot Pret we can't experience because there's no interaction with Bhoot Pret.
No. So I understand the difference in form leads to experience. The reason when you put your hand under
a commonality in substance and difference in form, with an additional thing, which is the substance has to be conscious. There has to be consciousness in this. The awareness, the quality of awareness has to be in the substance. That leads to experience.
See, I'm willing to accept. I'm willing to accept that the only way I'll experience the water is hot is if my hand is cold. If my hand temperature was hotter than water, I'll find the water to be cold. So in other words, that difference is what I experience.
Well, if the water is hot and your hand is cold, you'll experience heat. If the water is cold and your hand is hot, you'll experience cool. You will experience temperature. The only way you will experience temperature is if there is something in common between the hand and the water. That means there's an excitation of molecules, of electrons in the water, which is higher than your electrons. That excitation in the highly excited electrons pass on their excitation to your electrons. Why? Because the electrons are the same. The force of electromagnetic force which occurs between them is the same. It's a common force. That's why. if you had no, there could be another property of water that you're not even aware of. Because you know, I'm not saying there is. I'm just trying to tell you this is something you have to really, if you want to, you can either just simply say Vedant says it, that's fine. Or you have to really think about it. But don't reject it. I mean, that's my suggestion to you. Don't reject
No,
it.
I'm not rejecting it. But I'm saying for
because,
me,
because there
like
is,
I said,
I mean,
I'm in a happy
I
state.
find
But
truth in it.
But let me challenge it in a different way. So if we think in terms of other worlds that other forms of life that might exist somewhere else, and if we say that they have a totally different, I mean, one argument that's been made is that the reason we haven't found alien life is that because we don't know how to look for them, because they may be on a different, literally on a different planet with a different biochemistry or a different science. Forget biochemistry, totally different fundamentals. So if that is the case, then are you willing to say that Vedanta applies only to this side and not to the other side?
No, not at all. Vedanta is saying whatever that is you find, different biochemistry, whatever, it's all forms. You're talking about differences in forms. The substance is consciousness. You're looking for other creatures out there in other planets. What are you looking for? You're looking for forms. You're not looking for a substance out there on another planet. You can't get it. So Vedanta is beyond all this. It's saying that the substance is you. Whatever else, wherever else, whichever world, whichever dunya, Swarag, Narak, Andromeda, wherever, the substance is you. Okay. Anyway, I just wanted to share this as a way to sort of think about, if you're interested, and gain conviction in what Vedanta is saying. What Vedanta is saying is supported by logic completely. It is not logical in the sense that it cannot be derived from logic. You can't, but logic is never meant to derive anything new. Logic is always meant to test. There's always a proposition and a conclusion, and the logic checks and validates the proposition for internal and external consistency. And then you reach a conclusion. Logic can never derive something new. So it's just that I just want to tell you that there's a logical way to think about what Vedanta says, if you're interested. But what it says is, what it does say, and whichever, just to clarify, is this substance, which it calls Satyam, is what exists. Exists means it's substance. Substance exists, right? It's Sat. Its nature is consciousness. Nothing but consciousness. It's Chit. And it is not an object in space and time. It's Ananta. That is what it means by Satchidananta. That is why these words are chosen. They are not random. They are not accidentally chosen. Each word has a very specific reason for it being there. It describes Vedanta, at Brahman, in as much detail as it is possible to describe it. Beyond this, even Vedanta is silent. All it can say after that is, it's you. You are Satchitananda. See, we have a tendency to think that an object exists. Existence is an object's property. It comes into existence, it stays existent for some time, and then it goes away. It gets destroyed. So existence, an object comes and goes into existence. Consciousness is a property of matter. Somehow over time, molecules at some old billions of years ago at some seashore probably through some lightning or some other effect, some carbon molecules got together and accidentally consciousness emerged. And that evolved over time into us. So consciousness comes and goes. Tomorrow, there'll be another accident and this matter will all go away. We'll go back to the primal state. Only matter remains. That's how we think. And Ananta, nothing is Ananta. Everything is temporal. Everything comes and goes. We exist in space and time. Everything exists in space and time. This has been how we are brought up to think. And this is how we always think. Even after studying Vedanta, we will go back to this thinking and then we have to catch ourselves. Vedanta approaches the whole thing in a completely in reverse order. It says that the substance is consciousness. It cannot be seen, cannot be felt, cannot be experienced. You cannot experience consciousness. You can experience another object, but you can't experience consciousness. You infer consciousness because you experience another object. And you infer unconsciousness because you have no experience of another object, no experience of change. For 2 hours, you were under anesthesia, you were unconscious. Because there was no experience of time from the moment you got in to the moment you got out. So we say, that's how we think about it. But so we can't experience consciousness. So that's what the substance is. Cannot be experienced, but its nature is consciousness. Why? Because it enables experience. So Chit is something which cannot be experienced, but it enables all experience. Without it, experience would not be possible. The simile given in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad is light. Nobody can see light. At night, light is all around us from different stars everywhere. We can never see light. How do we know that there is light? Because we can see objects when there is light. If there is light, I can see Atul sitting here. If Atul was in a dark room, I couldn't see him. So I infer the presence of light because I'm able to see an object. That's how I infer the presence of life. So we see light cannot be seen, but it enables sight. Without light, there is no sight. Consciousness cannot be experienced, but it enables experience. Without this Chit consciousness, there is no possibility of experience. And that's all there is to the substance, this consciousness. Okay, so that's how. So in Vedanta's viewpoint, what existed and will always exist and everything is this substance. That substance is me, my reality too. Forms emerge. Now this is a different thing, altogether different topic. How does the form emerge? In Vedanta, we don't say that the substance became the form. We say the modification is called Vivarta Upadana Karana. That means the form appears to, it appears. It doesn't, it's not, it's like a dream. In dream, the dream appears in consciousness. It's not actually there, right? But we have no way of knowing whether it's there or not. So what appears, we think is there. What is there, we think doesn't exist. And that is what's called samsara. Living in this Brahm is called samsara.
So do you know how you can infer consciousness, right? Through experience, you can infer consciousness. Did Vedanta, like Vedanta says, through Maya, it's through Maya that it both veils and projects. But how does it speak to exactly how matter?
No, it doesn't. All it's because it doesn't know. It can't say. it's this Maya is another property. The ability to project a form is a property of consciousness.
How was that inferred? How was Maya inferred?
It's not, Maya is just a concept. Just like we have to give a name to Brahman. You know, somebody has to say, you have to say there's a technology. So why does the car move? Because there's an engine which runs on internal combustion technology. So Maya is a name given to this process just to make it simpler for people to put it all together in a capsule and say there's a technology called Maya.
So is it fair to say that because we can logically come to the conclusion that there are only forms and forms and forms, and the reality is only consciousness, and because we don't really know how the forms appeared, we just say, oh, through Maya.
Yeah, that's a way to explain it to someone who wants to know all the answers. So you box it and say through Maya, because you know for us we are living in for us everything is causation. There's a reason, there's something that exists, there's a cause, it turns into something else. So we want a cause for everything. We want a how for everything. We want a how. Okay, explain to me how this became this. Right? So in order to say that, we put it in a box and say it's Maya. It's a black box. So okay, you can put it aside and then you can focus on the other things. You can
But
talk about
even the concept of Maya came around. I'm just trying to see, you know, how okay, Brahman can be logically inferred, not experienced, but logically inferred through experience. But the concept of Maya, I'm just trying to see how did Vedanta come, how
not,
did it
no,
give the concept
it's
of Maya?
dream. So think about it, you know, because Vedanta explains, whole of Vedanta is founded on our experience.
Yeah,
In our experience, we have a waking state, we have a dream state, and we have a deep sleep state.
yeah.
So it took all of these and tried to figure out, you know, how is this happening? Oh, there's an experience happening. How can experience happen? What do you need for experience, right? Then it said there's a dreaming. How do you dream? What constitutes, there is an ability in us to have something called thoughts. And the ability is, that thought is like, what does a thought look like? A thought looks like an image. When you have a thought, it projects as an image. That's what it is. That's what is Maya. We don't see it, we don't talk about it, we don't notice it. It happens so automatically. But how do you think? Thinking is just conceiving forms in your mind. That's what thinking is. So you're conceiving these forms in your mind. That is an ability of consciousness. It's a tataksha lakshana of consciousness. Incidental thing of consciousness. It's incidental because it is not always there. Consciousness can exist with this ability, and it can with this ability sort of in bloom, or it can exist without this ability in bloom. That's why it's not a Swarupa Lakshana. It's not something which is a Chitta is always there. So,
But even to make that statement that it can exist without this ability, that is an inference
because
by
it said
knowing the nature of
the substance,
substance.
by knowing
Yeah.
the nature of the substance. It's not an inference. It's a it's a it's a claim supported by logic. Okay, inference
Yeah,
also.
I think the
You
thing
can't
is that
say
matter seems so, like, you can touch it, you know, it seems so real and solid. And it seems more solid than if you're dreaming something. Like it really does seem solid. And then to think, okay, well, really, this is how did that come out of consciousness? You know what I mean? Like it's,
I know what you mean. I totally know what you mean, and that's fine. You know,
yeah,
whatever seems solid and real to you right now is what is solid and real to you.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's it. It depends on how deeply you want to think. That's why tells you that there's a readiness for it. If what you want to think about is my experience, if you're interested in the content of the experience, I want happy experience, I don't want bad experience. Happy experience makes me happy. Bad experience makes me painful and in pain. If that's what your mind is all absorbed in, raga and dvesha, you have no time to think
No,
about
no,
the
I think we are
processes.
all beyond that, right? Like, I don't
No,
think
no,
that.
no, no. Don't kid yourself. Okay. None of us
No,
is
I
beyond
am
that.
just saying at least there's been room occasionally to think
Okay,
about
yeah,
that
yeah, that's
objectively.
different. Yes.
Yeah.
But at some stage, according to Vedant, we will realize that the happy experience doesn't make me happy for long. It makes me happy for a short while. And then you say, okay, let me think about experience as such. That is the starting point of Vedanta. Because then you're saying, okay, I'm interested in understanding what is this that's happening. One day I'm happy, one day I'm sad. I don't want to go bobbing up and down in the waves. I want to understand what's happening in the ocean. So then you start focusing on the process of experience. And that's process of experience. There is nowhere else to go. Science doesn't focus on it. Nothing else focus on it. But there is this one thing called Vedanta, which has been focusing on it for ages. So that's where you go.
So is it also, sorry if I'm taking up too much time. Is it also fair to say that the one who wanted to understand the mind, my mind, thinks about this, it wants to understand, and then the mind, what it understands is that I, the one who was afraid of perishing, is actually going to perish. Yeah, because the mind itself is Maya, all of it, mind is not the substance.
Yeah.
So is that fair to say that the one who was afraid is going to perish? Yeah, it is going to perish, but there's a big but there, is that there's something beyond the mind, my mind, but all of this activity is taking place in the mind, which is not the substance.
No. The everything is happening in the mind, which is whose substance is Maya,
Whose
is
substance
Brahman.
is, who is Brahman? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can, there is, so I don't want us to see, this is the problem with the last time when we ended up. I don't want us to think that there is a form and everything else is the form and it's not the substance.
Yeah.
What we are trying to say is that the substance of everything is the same. It's consciousness. There is no form without substance. That was our original premise. We hold to that. There is no form without substance. There's nothing called Maya which exists on its own. It is nothing but Brahman, misconstrued as Maya.
Right. So
Everything.
the mind which was scared and the mind which wants release is then realizes that really my true nature is Brahman. So I
Yes.
don't. So even though the mind
Yeah,
will
so even
perish,
though my form may
that's
perish, I will not perish. The mind, the essence of the mind will not perish. Although my form may change. That's the way to think about it. But the takeaway that Vedant wants us to carry from here is everything is Brahman. The substance of everything, whether it's an alien in a new galaxy or an alien in a completely new universe, or me or you, the substance is chitta. That's the substance, chitta, consciousness, which cannot be experienced, but which enables all experience. That's what is the essence of Vedanta. And to cap it all, to put a bow around it, my favorite shlok from Kane Upanishad, which talks totally to this, and now you will understand it, is Pratibodha Viditam Matam. So the student was asking the teacher, how can I know Brahman? I can't know Brahman. And the teacher told the student, Pratibodha Viditam Matam. It is known in every bodha. Pratibodha means every bodh. Bodha means cognition, every experience, every cognition. That's how you know Brahman. in every experience. Because that experience is not possible without consciousness. And that consciousness is Brahman. You can't know it as an object. You can't say, I know Brahman, because that would mean you know it as an object. Oh, I know, I understand it. All you know is it's Satchitananda, that's all you know. But you can't know it as an object. You can't say, I don't know Brahman. That's saying, I don't know myself. Or I don't have any experience. Then how do you know? You know it because you experienced. You know consciousness because you can experience things around you. That's why you know it. And it's the common factor between the object and the subject which enables the experience. Without it, there will be no experience. So pratibodha viditam matam. You know it through every experience. Doesn't have to be a good experience or a bad experience. Doesn't have to be an experience of meditation. None of those things. It's just experience. Like, how do you know there is light? Well, I can see objects around me. That's how I know there's light. Okay. All right, guys. I think I can ask you if there are any questions, but I think both ho gaya yaar aaj ke liye. Unless there's something really that's on the top of your mind that you want to ask. I mean, if I've given you food for thought, then the objective is met. Okay. We call it a night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
fine.
All right,
Thank you.
guys. See you in
Thanks. Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.